Welcome back to Navy 250, Sea Power and Freedom. We want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile, for standing with RAV.
Okay, welcome back. Honored to be back. Navy 250. We got a lot going on. A full naval exercise will take place here shortly with the commander-in-chief out on, I think, the bridge of the USS Bush. And, of course, we got the Truman, another one of our carriers, Pierside in Norfolk. Steve Gruber's on the riser. We're going to cut to all of it as soon as we get some action at either. Jack Posobiec is out with the President of the United States, and Gruber's anchoring at the Truman. And Monica, our own colleague, Ambassador Monica Crowley, should be addressing us shortly, kind of lay out the day. I want to go to Captain Paul Morgan. Paul, you're a naval aviator, right? Helicopter pilot, but you now are a specialist in high-performance lethal drones. We talk about the surface Navy. We talk about this huge investment that we potentially need to defend the Pacific, particularly against the Chinese Communist Party, Taiwan. All of talk about hemispheric defense and how much that means and how critical the Navy is to that. But are we missing something? Is drone warfare and the advances in drone warfare, which has made such a massive difference in on the land battle as we see in Ukraine, is that going to radically change naval warfare, sir?
I believe so, Steve. I spent a lot of time as a program manager for all Navy and Marine Corps UAVs. We did a lot of work with the shipboard integration of ScanEagle, which was a new capability that frankly got us back into the fight from a naval perspective. Started very simply, and then we grew into a fully integrated ScanEagle system in the small surface warfare combatants, which I always cruised on. I was a frigate and a cruiser sailor. So there are ways that we are making the tyranny of distance, which is what we call it in the Asian theater. How do I communicate? How do I jam? How do I do things at distance? What's the power of endurance? How do I use these semi-lethal and also long-flying UAVs? How do I merge them with the manned fleet? So manned-unmanned teaming is going to become a big thing, trying to shorten the energy loop of decisions between finding something that is actionable and making a decision on that data. That's where UAVs are unique. So for instance, the jamming world is where we got started. We were very concerned about F-18Gs, the inability for them to get close enough to jam without putting just a boatload of energy in the air. So we came up with an expendable UAV when I was the program manager, and we called it Whisper rather than Shout. You can get in close. You could do everything you need to do with an expendable UAV from the F-18, and you can whisper jam, not shout from 50 miles or 150 miles. So that's the power of UAVs. It's a time sink. It's the power of endurance, and it's the power of communications at long distances.
By the way, like I said, we're going to cut to the naval exercise as soon as it happens. It should be shortly, also back on the main stage. Captain Morgan, I think people have been surprised, at least, civilians have been surprised about the lethality and reach of drones when you talk about the war in Ukraine. Now you got the Russians and the Ukrainians pounding each other every night, principally with drones. You've had this incredible strike by the Ukrainians. Now, was it coordinated with American intelligence, probably out of Wiesbaden? But they went in, I think, 2,000 miles into Russia. They took out part, at least half of the third leg of the nuclear triad, the strategic bomber, something Curtis LeMay couldn't even think about. Is the Army, or what's happening on ground, particularly in Ukraine, is the Navy SEALs and the Marine Corps, are we a little behind the power curve, or are we thinking about this in an advanced state for naval warfare and prepared to do the acquisitions you need to actually make this happen?
The Navy was behind when I was a program manager. Right? There's no way around it. The Army got me back into the fight. By the way, we deployed Raven A's, Raven B's with SOCOM. We did a lot of chumming off of what the Army had done. I actually deployed Shadows with the Marine Corps in advance. We got rid of Pioneers. The Army actually gave me a Shadow battalion to deploy, and I paid them back 2 years later. And that's the spirit of the cooperation that we had with the Army. The key for us in the ability and what they've shown in the Ukrainian theater over land is swarming, and we call it the tyranny not only of distance, but the tyranny of nearness. So swarming at distance is very difficult, right? The endurance of the smalls and the endurance of swarms, you're swarming your next door neighbor's pool. That's what's going on in Ukraine. They're able to take these cheap, very effective UAVs, tremendously effective, take advantage of all the power of computing, all the power of camera size. Batteries are so much better. Propulsion is so much better. So what we're seeing and what the Navy is doing is looking at that as an example. What are called requests for information and new proposals come out from the Marine Corps all the time. We want ship-based, we want tank-based, we want reconnaissance-based UAVs. Same with the Navy SEALs. I've worked very closely with them. And they're interested because we call it digital crack. Once you get it, once you see it, and once you're able to inculcate that in your everyday life, it's a pattern of life that you can rely on and that you can go back and look at. That's the key. And that's the power that the Marine Corps and the Navy's looking at. So for instance, real quickly, when I did the escorts of the reflight Kuwaiti tankers, if I'd have had a UAV attached to the back of the ship at 400 feet, my visual horizon went from 11 miles to 40. That's a significant delta in response time for small boats, for decoys, for any number of different things. That's the power of the UAV, is the persistence, the endurance, and the ability to coordinate with manned airplanes.
Captain Fennell, your naval intelligence, is Captain Morgan right? Is this changing the nature of particularly surface warfare as we think about the Chinese Communist Party, who actually also are some of the world's experts in drone and drone warfare, sir?
Well, there's no question about it that we have to look at this technology and see how to marinize it to get it at sea. I was in the Pentagon in 2010, my 1 year in the Pentagon, and I worked in the program office that dealt with UAVs, Scan Eagle and other platforms like that, the new UCAV that we have. So we've been, I think he's right, we've been behind. We need to go faster. There's going to be some kind of issue with the distances across the Pacific. You're not going to be able to fly some of these small wire-guided drones, from a destroyer or a small ship 2,000 miles away from China and be able to be effective. So we got to find ways to get these platforms in close and get them integrated into what we call distributed maritime operations network, so that we can network all of our platforms, manned and unmanned. So it is here to stay. The question is, how is it going to be applicable to naval warfare? And I'll just say, in my experience, watching the Pentagon and the intelligence community transition from fighting war at land in Afghanistan and Iraq and applying that to the naval maritime domain, it's not just a simple cut and paste. It has to be completely rethought. There's different atmospherics, there's different sensitivities to salt and seawater and duration at sea and repair and all of that kind of stuff that has to be looked at. And I know folks like Captain Morgan are all about that. So we've got people looking at it. We just need to accelerate. It needs to be part of this restoration of this Make America's Navy Great Again. We need to restore and do what we did in 1940 to focus on building our Navy. And it's not going to be the Navy of 1940 where we just pumped out, destroyers and jeep carriers and carriers. It's going to be the new Navy of the 21st century, but we have to make it a national priority. I think that's the message that I want to get across.
I'm going to get back to Admiral Massey in a second, but I want to continue that. There were visionaries before Pearl Harbor. They knew it was a gunfight coming, right? I mean, the leaders of our country, they started preparing an army. They started getting ready an army for a fight a war in Europe. But particularly there was a big fight inside the Navy because it was you still had an aspect that was battleship centric, but you had some visionaries that said, hey, when we fight the Japanese across the vast Pacific, we're going to need aircraft carriers. Tell our audience about that. What happened this kind of late 1930s, 1940 before Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, there was a great understanding amongst many in Washington and folks in the fleet that the Imperial Japanese Navy and the striking fleet, the Kido Butai, were a serious, very serious threat, and that they were growing uh, dangerous, and that there was going to be a conflict. And so, one of the senators in the Congress, Senator Carl Vinson, put together a bill called the Two Ocean Navy Act in 38, 39. It got passed in 40. And it was that work that was done in 1940 that allowed us to start winning and seeing the production of that industrial might roll off the lines in 43, in the summer of 43, that allowed us to win the war in the Pacific. If that bill had not been passed in 1940, we just scraped by in the Battle of Midway. It was a miracle that we won there. It was a turning point, but it was only a turning point in respect that we had something coming off the line in a new fleet. We need that same kind of a focus today, because the Chinese, not just their Navy, but the Chinese Communist Party's agenda is to destroy the United States of America. They prefer to do it non-kinetically, but they have built a kinetic capability, and they will use it if given the opportunity.
Okay, right there you see the president, the commander-in-chief is now landing on the USS Bush. Right, here we go. We're going to cut to the voice of God here to explain what's going on. Let's go and do it.
John Phelan, and finally, Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Daryl Cottle. I will be your narrator, Lieutenant Daniel Burns, call sign Hey Hey from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We thank you today for joining us aboard the George H.W. Bush Freedom at Work, the flagship of Carrier Strike Group 12. We also thank our sailors on Pier 14, next to the Harry S. Truman and the USS Kearsarge. We are grateful to have you here today to witness not only the size and scope of the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, but to showcase how the men and women of the Team Avenger bring 100,000 tons of American steel to life. Our sailors are trained and ready to fight with the right skills, equipment, and warrior ethos to protect the American interest around the globe. The platforms theme and the events experienced today will encompass the full power and might of the United States Navy. You will see fast attack submarines, live fires from 8 Arleigh-Burke-class guided missile destroyers, Navy SEALs fast roping from a helicopter to a destroyer, and finally an air-powered demonstration featuring a full complement of the Carrier Air Wing, showing the unmatched power of U.S. naval aviation. Now, be prepared to be amazed as our Navy demonstrates the impressive capabilities of the most powerful naval force the world has ever seen.
Helicopter bringing President Trump out. Captain Morgan, you're very familiar with helicopters in the Navy, sir?
Yes.
Right there. That's a Commander-in-Chief's going to join. Going to hit the deck here in a moment. You saw the. We're going to have a narrator for the entire exercise. I believe that actually the president's going to go up to the bridge and view it with the First Lady from the bridge. Admiral Masso, what do you anticipate we're going to see here when things get up and running?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of activity. As I had said, they talked about fast roping SEALs off helicopters, Navy gunfire support missions, things of that nature. It's going to be loud and proud. And very impressive.
Admiral, here we go. The Commander-in-Chief's coming out. Admiral, real quickly, drones and changing the nature of surface warfare. Your thoughts?
Absolutely essential, crucial. It's non-negotiable. It's got to be an important cornerstone of our investment strategies for not the future in 20 years, but for the future in 18 months. I couldn't agree more with both the captains who spoke earlier. It's got to be done quickly, methodically. We've got to integrate the tactical picture in a kind of a common tactical operation picture where we're getting the best intelligence that we can get so we can make decisions. And then also we need to focus on what an offensive capability of a drone needs to look like given the threats that we're addressing.
You're going to see today the president's been looking forward to this. Like I said, I think this is his Teddy Roosevelt moment. He gets to see the fleet in action, and Admiral Masso is absolutely correct. I think you're going to see a lot of explosions and a lot of gunfire because at the end of the day, power projection is about exactly that. It's about the Navy's ability to put aircraft across the deck coming from carrier strike groups and also having the surface warfare that can then pound the enemy. People ought to keep in mind we have an amphibious ready group, 4,000 fleet Marines and sailors off of the coast of Venezuela, even as we speak. There we go, right there. That's the Admiral Masso. That's the real Navy right there. The cruisers, destroyers, and frigates. Are they not, sir?
They absolutely are. That is the Navy, the real Navy. Yes.
Oh God, I love to, but they look magnificent. Just love. There's a submarine right there. I think we're gonna have some activity from fast attacks. Maybe even shoot a couple of Tomahawks today. Here we go. We're gonna turn back to the commentator.
Connecticut. This submarine is built for longevity, stealth, and high performance. Iowa's advanced technology allows for near silent movement through the world's oceans. Its sensitive sonar can detect and track enemy submarines and warships from extended distances. With a length of 377 feet and 6,800 tons and a speed of 25 knots, the Iowa represents the greatest America's silent fleet. The Iowa's crew is comprised of 15 officers and 117 enlisted sailors, all highly trained and selected from the nation's most competitive candidates. The Iowa's armament consists of 4 torpedo tubes and 2 Virginia payload tubes, each capable of holding 6 vertical launch Tomahawk missiles that can strike over 1,200 miles away. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the USS Iowa and the United States Navy's Silent Service.
Okay, right there. Our submarine. Sonny, give us a perspective of our fast attack and ballistic missile submarines.
Well, we're, of course, investing heavily in the Columbia class. We have kind of completed construction on a vast array of ships. We had the Seawolf class, which had 3 ships in that class, Connecticut, Seawolf, and Jimmy Carter. They have a very robust shipboard combat system, including a wide aperture array. And there is no more powerful anti-submarine capability than what comes from a submarine. The activities that we have in Guam, which is another area that you and I operated in together, is powerful in the Taiwan Straits, and they're finding, their capabilities that they have with respect
to the narrator.
Okay.
The USS Farragut, the USS Donald Cook, the USS Mason, the USS Delbert D. Black, the USS Ross, USS Cole, USS Neitz, USS Gonzalez, and USS Carney. Each of these powerful warships is manned by 320 of America's finest sailors, highly trained, battle-ready warfighters who embody the skill, spirit, and dedication to make the United States Navy the greatest naval force in history. Their seamless teamwork and unwavering commitment delivering precision firepower upon our nation's enemies from the surface of the sea. Aboard the aircraft carrier, the commander of Destroyer Squadron 2-2 operates as the Sea Combatant Commander for the George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group. The Desron commander is responsible for directing each of the destroyers under his command to successfully engage in anti-surface and anti-submarine warfare.
Admiral Masso, you and I were shipmates in the I think Desron 23, the Little Beavers, the very famous destroyer squadron from World War II. The destroyer squadron works underneath the carrier battle group to make sure they get protection for the carrier, sir.
They do. The Desron 23 staff, of which we're both familiar with from those days long ago, will reside on the aircraft carrier, and they will, fight the Desrons that support the strike group from the carrier. And again, as the narrator said, it's not just anti-submarine warfare, but it's anti-surface warfare, and it's tracking intel and reconnaissance and everything that goes with the warfighting calculus.
Also, Captain Fennell, the fast attack submarines, they are absolutely essential to what we call the protection of the shore. It's not just the surface navy and our ASW capability, anti-submarine warfare capability. Fast attack submarines in direct support of the carrier battle group are also essential, particularly given developments in the Chinese Navy, sir?
And our fast attack friends have been focused on kind of more independent operations. But when we get back to the kind of confrontation that we had with the Soviet Navy, now that we will face from a Chinese Navy that's building submarines at a rapid pace and has been building them, we need to make sure that we have our hunter-killer submarines protecting our high-value assets. So that gets into the, we talk about the missiles coming in from up above. We also have to protect from the undersea, and the Chinese have
Just go
powered
up
fast attack.
Phalanx close-in weapon system, also known as Sea-Wiz. The Phalanx weapon system provides U.S. Navy ships with an inner layer point defense capability against anti-missiles, low-flying aircraft, UAVs, and high-speed surface craft. The Phalanx weapon system is the only deployed close-in weapon system capable of autonomously performing its own search, detect, evaluation, track, engage, and kill assessment functions. This is the ship's last line of defense, providing a fast reaction, radar-guided, 20mm gun, weapon system that is capable of firing at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute.
Yeah, right there, the president's being shown the Admiral Massa. And like I say, we're cutting out. The Navy's controlling the narrator, so we're just going to go every time the narrator speaks. The president's on the deck right there of the Bush. When you talk about that gun system, Admiral Massa, what are we talking about?
Well, the close-in weapon support is a very vital component, and I think if you recall back in the day where the USS Stark did not have their Sea-Wiz set to an automatic capability, and an Exocet came in and severely damaged, took lives of that ship, and it was the great damage control efforts of the ships in partnership with them out there that saved the ship from sinking. But this is a very reliable system. It's one of the best we've got. I know I was part of some of the studies between a shoot-off between Sea Vulcan 25 and actually a 30mm derivation of it. But the 4,500 rounds is extremely powerful and really does work. And our former ship, the Paul F. Foster, is a test ship for such activities where they actually shoot missiles at it and they're intercepted by capabilities embedded on the ship, and that's done from the Naval Surface Warfare Center.
At 45, you're hitting these bolts at 4,500 a minute. By the way, you just saw the water going up off of our combatant right there. I think you're going to get a 5-inch 54 going off in a minute. Wish we could get the if the sound hit it, your teeth would rattle. Admiral Masso, that's kind of a last line of defense. You're basically putting up a sheet of steel to shred whatever missile's coming, any airframe that's coming to hit a surface vessel kind of at the last second, right? I mean, that's your last hope, is to hit that, is you hit your close in to basically shred the airframe before you're hit.
Yeah, that's part of it. And we also have, a rapid bloom offboard chaff, which sends out aluminum and things that will maybe change the direction of an incoming missile of some sort. So we've got a number of different capabilities, but the last line of defense would be the CWIS. But there's great comfort and confidence in that capability.
The Mark 45 5-inch gun is a fully automatic naval gun mount. Mark 45 is designed to engage surface and air targets and provide naval surface fire support for expeditionary operations. The gun mount includes a 20-round automatic loader drum. Its maximum fire rate of 16 to 20 rounds per minute with an effective range of 13 nautical miles.
Masso, Captain Fennell, you know that if you're standing on the bridge of that ship and that 5-inch 54 is going off, it rattles your teeth. I mean, the repercussions are so hard. Sonny, you've fired that many times, right? Tell the audience what it's like.
Well, it's pretty substantial, and again, it's got a pretty a long range. But yes, it's a major explosion, and in fact, the shell casings are launched from it, and they substantially mark up the decks because of the violence of the thrust of that firing. And again, those are unmanned mounts, and you can see them right there. You can see that smoke coming out, and if you look carefully, you can see some of the shell casings. And the president has got to be absolutely beside himself with pride right now, seeing what his great Navy can bring to bear. That smell of cordite, there's nothing like it.
Admiral, people are maybe not familiar with the Navy are sitting there going, they remember victory at sea with battleships with 16-inch guns. Why? Because of the new armor. Why? Because of missile technology, drone technology, and the automated nature of the 5-inch 54, that these ships can actually deliver much more lethality. Although nothing can replace a naval gunfire from a battleship, at least psychologically, on an enemy that's embedded. Why the surface warfare capability so much more lethal today?
Well, I think it all goes to the sensors that they have that kind of position us for the right ranging and locations of those items that we might be trying to shoot at. So we've got more sophisticated fire control radars. I think you recall when the Spruance class came into bearing in the Arleigh Burke classes. These ships, because of the sophistication of the fire control radars, almost never miss. They just don't. And so they're more lethal because they're more accurate.
Missile Arsenal. The Standard Missile 2, or SM-2, is the U.S. Navy's premier air defense weapon with a range of up to 90 nautical miles. The SM-2 is launched from Mark 41 Vertical Launch System. This weapon system is an integral part of the Aegis weapon system aboard the Ticonderoga class cruisers and Arleigh Burke class destroyers. Its primary mission includes fleet area defense and ship self-defense, and is using SEAM active radar guidance to decisively engage and destroy even the most advanced adversary fighter aircraft. One of our ships in company, the USS Carney, recently fired the SM-2 missile in support of combat operations in the Red Sea. On October 19, 2023, the USS Carney was involved in one of the most intense combat engagements by a U.S. Navy warship since World War II. But at the end of what became a 10-hour standoff, Carney had shot down 15 drones and 4 land attack cruise missiles fired by Houthi rebels in Yemen. This marked the most intense combat engagement of the U.S. Navy in years. Ladies and gentlemen, your United States Navy Surface Fleet.
Right there, we have that's a gun line. Explain to the audience what's going on.
Naval Special Warfare history is
Well, for safety, they're in a formation one. It looks like, and that's just to create a spread so that if they're launching a different SM-2, Standard Missile 2, extended range, they're firing guns, things of that nature. That Form 1 is an old. It's a way to just be out of each other's way and to manage the show a little bit better. They can operate in a number of different configurations.
The U.S. Navy SEALs were established by President John F. Kennedy in 1962 as a small elite maritime force. They carry out types of clandestine small unit high impact missions that large forces with high profile platforms such as ships, tanks, jets, and submarines cannot. SEALs conduct essential on the ground special reconnaissance at critical targets to enable strikes by larger conventional forces. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is effective integration and interoperability with varying air and maritime and land components, which is critical to the SEAL operations. Today's helicopter assault force is relying on a skilled pilot and a crew of Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 11 to insert them into a target area via fast rope from an MH-60 Sierra helicopter. Fast roping is designed to enable SEALs a rapid insertion into areas of rough terrain or obstacles that would prevent a suitable landing zone. The height of the fast rope is dependent on the target area, but can be held up to 90 feet, the equivalent of a 9-story building, with close to 100 pounds of combat equipment aboard each Navy SEAL operator.
Underwater demolition, now Navy SEALs, UDT. By the way, I want to tell the audience, as soon as the narrator comes back up, we automatically override Admiral Masso and Captain Fennell's analysis of all this. I think you're seeing the combined arms. You're going to see some submarines. You're seeing some.
Lay down covering fire, enabling the operators to begin the assault.
There's some of the covering fire of the helicopters. Captain Morgan knows about that. Admiral Masso, you're getting kind of an overview of the combined arms capabilities of the Navy right here, are we not?
We absolutely are. This is extraordinary. It's a great demonstration. And, you ask how we can enhance the, the desires of what we believe we need to develop. Look no further than what we're seeing right now with the President, the Secretary of the Navy. I believe this will be one of the very first exhibitions that he's ever seen. And this is all very important public relations, but it also shows some extraordinary training. And when Eric Prince so rightly talked about having that ethos is about the right manning, the right equipment, and the right training. And look no further than what we're watching right now.
I mean, some of these weapon systems, like, for instance, the submarines, the fast attack. Remember, the boomers are the ones that hold the ballistic missiles that can target Russia or China to drop a nuclear weapon
Today,
on. The
Naval Special Warfare maintains a forward posture, operating across the globe from South America and Europe to the Middle East and Asia, proactively addressing emerging threats and safeguarding national interests. These operators are a global premier maritime special operations force, delivering decisive action where it matters most. They are trained to operate in the harshest environments, from desert cities to remote coastlines. They continue to innovate in a battle space defined by evolving technology and global competition. Across its history, Naval Special Warfare has remained true to the ethos of the Navy SEAL teams. They are quiet professionals, relentless in their pursuit of excellence, and unwavering in their commitment to the mission. Naval Special Warfare honors the great generations of warriors and support personnel who have built its legacy and reaffirms its commitment to serving with honor, courage, and excellence well into the future.
Sure, we're going to have some naval air assets also Captain Morgan, I'll bring you in here before we get. Was it Leyte Gulf or Midway was the first naval battle, I think, in history that the two sides never saw each other, right? They were at such a distance that it was all done through naval aircraft. Now, this eventually will be, you evolve way around to drones, etc. But people should understand, in these battles, the way they're set up, it's not like Nelson's Navy or in the Revolution where you pull alongside, just unsheath the guns and just let's get it on. These are done at vast different distances, are not, sir?
Well, Steve,
Each Navy
the
SEAL is a
first
force multiplier, a highly skilled warrior capable of operating in remote environments or engaging the enemy in an urban setting. They are experts in close quarters, combat, demolitions, communications, marksmanship, and a myriad of other skills essential for success in the most challenging environments. They are the tip of the spear, the silent guardians, the embodiment of American resolve. They are the U.S. Navy SEALs, and they stand ready to defend freedom, protect our interests, and answer the call, however it may come. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this small display of the capabilities of the Naval Special Warfare and our supporting elements as we seek to carry on the legacy of the frogmen that have gone before us. Give it up for your United States Navy SEALs. During the Second World War, USS San Jacinto launched Lieutenant Junior Grade George H.W. Bush and his TBF Avenger torpedo bomber from a vast expanse of the Western Pacific. This helped support 58 critical combat missions. Since this pivotal area, the aircraft carrier has remained an indispensable pillar of America's national security, providing vital roles in the conflicts from Vietnam all the way to recent Inherent Resolve. Today, our Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carriers represent the cutting edge of naval aviation technology. These mighty vessels launch aircraft using steam catapults, powerful enough to accelerate a 65,000-pound aircraft from 0 to nearly 200 miles per hour in a mere seconds. This represents an extraordinary feat of engineering and precision. After completing their missions, our pilots execute one of the most challenging maneuvers in aviation, landing aboard a moving ship. Approaching at the precise 8 degrees of 3.5-degree glide slope from approximately 3/4 of a mile, they aim to catch one of the 3 arresting wires that are only 40 feet apart, offering a total landing area of 80 feet. This narrow margin leaves virtually no room for error. In this demanding skill, this is required both day and night, and it distinguishes our naval aviators as the most highly trained and capable pilots in the world. The flight deck is angled at 9 degrees, a critical design feature that allows aircraft to be launched and recovered simultaneously, maximizing operational tempo and efficiency. 4 steam catapults propel the fixed-wing aircraft into the skies, while 3 arresting wires safely recover them upon return. All aircraft operations are expertly coordinated by the air boss from the primary flight control. Supporting these complex operations are 4 large elevators that move the aircraft seamlessly between the flight deck and the hangars below. These hangars are carefully divided into 3 bays of thick steel, engineered to contain and restrict the spread of fire, ensuring the safety personnel and equipment. The 2 aircraft located on the fantail at the aftmost portion of the ship are now about to kick on their engines and prepare to launch and intercept whatever may be on the way. We see them taxiing forward to the waste catapults now, where 52,000 pounds of steel will use its own 44,000 pounds of thrust and the impressive power of the carrier's catapult system to go from 0 to up 150 knots in roughly 3 seconds. The USS George H.W. Bush has 4 catapults, 2 on the bow, 2 on the waist. It is capable of launching 1 aircraft every 30 seconds. As you will see, the aircraft will taxi up to the catapult, lower the launch bar into a small shuttle. Behind the nose gear will be attached a holdback fitting from the landing gear to the ship. The holdback bar will hold the aircraft as the pilot runs his throttles to full power. When the pilot is ready to launch, they will give a crisp salute, and the catapult officer will then press the button, who will release the launch bar, and away he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you from the waist, the Catapult Demo.
Captain Morgan, this is still one of the most dangerous carrier launches, and carrier recoveries are still among the most dangerous activities the Navy does, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I admire this so much. This has been a lot of fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, you very rarely get this kind of up close and personal on this. President would be on the bridge right now observing this. There we go. Check out.
While our Intrepid alert aircraft proceed to investigate and neutralize the threat, 3 of our aircraft are returning from the fight now. Overhead in the stack, we will recover 1 F-35 Lightning II, 1 F-18 Super Hornet, and 1 E-2D Hawkeye.
Very technical, very dangerous. We're going to recover 3 separate aircraft. Admiral Masso, on the recovery of these of the aircraft, normally there's a destroyer right in back of the carrier that is a plane guard ship. Talk to me about that. What's the purpose of having a surface warfare combatant right in back of the carrier?
Well, they actually do a combination. They'll have a helo off, what they call the starboard delta, and they stand off in the wake. In the absence of that helo, they'll put a destroyer in what they call 2 SNX position, which is anywhere from 12 to 1,500 yards astern of the carrier, and if someone were to be blown overboard or there be an aircraft accident of some sort, the destroyer would render that first response to either pick up an individual who's fallen overboard or to go alongside to grab a pilot that may be part of a plane that went into the water. So it's a pretty essential, very, very demanding. You've got to be at the top of your game. You've got to be paying attention, all hands on deck, watching and making sure, because you just don't have that much time to respond to any sort of emergency.
There's the commander-in-chief right there getting fully briefed.
Now overhead
Here
is
we
the
come. We're gonna
E-2D
have some,
Hawkeye. The
Here's the
Hawkeye is the
Hawkeye.
Navy's all-weather, carrier-based, tactical battle management, airborne early warning, command and control aircraft. The E-2D is a twin-engine, 5-crew-member, high-wing turboprop aircraft with a 24-foot diameter radome attached to the upper fuselage. The Hawkeye is our eye in the sky. The pilots will manage this aircraft to touchdown in the landing area, or LA, a small piece of steel roughly 100 feet wide, and with a wingspan of nearly 80 feet, there is not much room for error. Here, the E-2D pilot would demonstrate the power of the E-2D's engines and look to take back off again in only a few hundred feet.
Paul Morgan, that's what people have to realize. When these planes come in, they go to full power, right? In case they miss the arresting gear or something breaks, they got to be ready to launch instantaneously, sir?
Oh, absolutely. And this, what you're looking at right here, is one of the hardest aircraft to bring aboard. I know a lot of E2 guys, and it's pretty sporty. Well, there was turbine buildup, Steve. That was the thing that, until they put the new blades and the new Vadex on it, it was a little lag time, and it puckered.
Talk to us about that as we watch this come in. What do you mean by that? Tell the audience.
Well, these are turbofans or jet engines with props on the end, and so these are new engines and new blade arrangements. They used to be 4-bladed, so it didn't take as much air as this did. You can see that. It's a magnificent airplane, by the way. But they're going to go to full power, and there was always that little wind-up time that they hated right there.
That's a touch and go right there.
Yeah, so they'll spool up as they come into land, and there was always that second or two that the pilots would tell me. It was just like, come on, baby, come on, keep going, let's go.
Next inbound is the F-35C
Admiral
carrier
Massa-
variant, the U.S.
here we
Navy's
go, here we
first, 5th-generation stealth fighter. This cutting-edge aircraft marks a historic leap in naval aviation, bringing radar-evading stealth technology to the carrier deck for the first time in naval history. The F-35C sets new standards in weapons system integration, lethality, maintainability, combat radius, and payload, delivering a true multi-mission power projection from the sea. It pairs 5th-generation survivability with major advances in network-enabled mission systems, reliability, and interoperability. Designed as a first day of the warfighter, the F-35C is built to dominate both air and surface threats while surviving the most challenging threat environments of today.
Admiral Massa, you first, and then Paul, as you come in here. The commander-in-chief, I think, is down there on the actual deck itself. I've never seen that. I thought it'd be observed from up above. That's like the most dangerous place on Earth right now, is it not, Admiral Massa?
Well, he's not standing next to an aircraft that's getting ready to launch. If he's on the deck, he's probably in the landing signal officer's staging area.
He is.
Yeah, and if he's there, this is where the LSO is. That and they have a glide slope indicator, and the landing signal officer will ask the pilot to call the ball, and he's looking for an alignment of lights. And that's a great place to view it. It's very exciting, especially for non-aviators such as the president or such as me. I love being back there. It's.
But if that cable snaps, and they do snap, if that cable snaps, it goes off like a. Captain Morgan. I admire the president for being down there, and like you said, like Sonny said, it's unique. You get a unique opportunity, but everything on this deck right now is still one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Am I incorrect in that?
is the F-18 Super Hornet, a fourth-generation aircraft and the workhorse of the U.S. Navy. With a wingspan of 45 feet and touching down with over 100 knots, the arresting wires across the deck will bring it to a speed of down to 0, allowing it to stop within a few hundred feet. This clears the way for any following aircraft with an ideal interval of 55 seconds.
It's Captain Fennell with it. Captain Fennell, remember, those pilots have to go to full throttle. That's the bravery and courage of naval aviators.
Yes, it is. It's very exciting and it's very dangerous. I've done it several times. I think the president is actually standing forward of the
we'd like to now
island.
recognize the hard man equipment that are working on the flight deck operations to make the flight ops possible on an aircraft carrier. If you look around, you will notice a wide array of different colored jerseys and float coats running around the deck of the carrier. These are the people that make things happen out here on a day-to-day basis. They are the reason the George H.W. Bush Strike Group team can achieve our full combat capability anytime, any place. These are just a few of the people that make the aircraft carrier flight operations possible. The true strength of the Carrier Strike Group comes from the dedicated men and women who work tirelessly to maintain these impressive machines every day. Our next demonstration will be an F-18 organic refueling capabilities. Here you will now see an aircraft coming into the pattern who is operating on a low fuel state and will be forced to discontinue his approach.
I want to thank the Navy for providing us this feed. I think we're the only channel that has it. Really want to thank people for doing this. We got Posto out there. Extraordinary naval exercise right now.
The pilot is now executing a wave off from the carrier indicating a foul deck. A foul deck means that there is an obstruction in the landing area, and for the safety of those on the deck and the aircraft coming into land, the approach has been aborted. The airborne refueling aircraft has been set to hawk our low-fuel aircraft in the pattern during their attempt to land. Since they were unable to come aboard, they are on low fuel, and it is up to the tanker aircraft to expeditiously join and refuel the aircraft to give it another chance to land. If you follow the path of the low-fuel aircraft on the port side of the ship, you will see the tanker setting up in position to set up for air-to-air refueling. Now it is up to the pilot with the low-fuel aircraft to steel his nerves and execute a precise and controlled connection, inserting the refueling probe into the drogue basket of the tanker aircraft and flying a perfect formation to hold in basket and to receive enough fuel for another chance to land. Organic tanking has made it possible by the F-18 and has made Navy's operations in hostile theaters without divert airfields possible for the last two decades. This ensuring safe aircraft recovery and extends the operational range of the F-18 for long-range strikes.
Captain Morgan, Paul Morgan, what is this ability to right there, another great shot. What is the power of that in-flight refueling capability? You had to wave off because you had low fuel. Tell the audience why is that so important?
Well, blue water ops means there's no gas stations, right? You're not you're not flying to San Diego. So this is a great shot.
Next, we will witness the two F-35C Lightning II perform
Look at
basic
that.
fighter maneuvers, commonly referred to as dogfighting. This is a tactic that has roots tracing back to the daring pilots of World War I. Each pilot will push their bodies and their aircraft to the extreme limits in order to achieve victory. Approaching from the bow and the stern, the fighters close in on each other at speeds exceeding 1,000 knots, beginning in the fight on neutral terms to determine the winner. The aircraft will fly past each other in a high aspect pass with just 500 feet separating them.
There's a commander-in-chief right there with the First Lady getting a briefing. I think it's the Strike Force. I think it's the Strike Force commander, the Admiral. Maybe Sonny, is that the Chief of Naval Operations with him, or is that the Strike Force commander?
I can't see clearly, but I'm almost certain that Admiral Cottle is there as well.
After the merge, each fighter will look to max perform their aircraft by pulling to the load limit of the aircraft at 7.5 Gs. As they raid around and approach the next merge, each fighter is looking to cue and employ both the AIM-120 and AIM-9X missiles to take out their adversary and win the fight. Both fighters in a similar aircraft will look to capitalize on errors made by the other pilot to gain the offensive position. The fighters are now approaching the second neutral merge. One aircraft has decided to execute a nose-high maneuver and gain a positional advantage. Preparing to employ the AIM-120 to kill their adversary, they will open their weapons bay doors, and the fighter that has a positional advantage will max perform to get them behind their adversary and maintain the offensive position. After employing both the AIM-120 and the AIM-9X, the offensive fighter will not maneuver to execute a gain attack on their adversary in an attempt to gain a 1v1 engagement victory.
Paul Morgan, tell the audience what would 7Gs feel like?
Well, as a helicopter pilot, it would be bad. I think the max I've ever done is like 4 or 5 in flight school, but 7Gs that'll make you tired.
The edge of human endurance.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
Next,
Really
we will
incredible.
see the E-2D up close and personal in flight. The E-2D is the Navy's premier carrier-borne, airborne early warning asset. It provides impressive radar detection ranges and works alongside the rest of the carrier's troop as the eye in the sky. Maintained atop the fuselage, you can see a large rotating dish. This is a powerful APY-9 radar that allows the E-2D to maintain situational awareness to the battle space. It plays a critical role in ensuring the carrier strike group defenses. During large-scale engagements, it is up to the E-2D that is providing crucial intelligence and direction to the aircraft engaged in the prosecution of threats and aircraft and surface vessels.
a touch and go right there. President's down on the flight deck. It's it's pretty amazing. Very amazing, actually. See the arresting, the hook, the tail hook right there. So, Paul, walk us through that. What that tail hook is there to catch the arresting gear? How difficult is that?
Well, it's, I was not a jet guy, but the aids to landing are so much better. And this is such a magnificent airplane that a lot of it's done glide slope wise. And the Admiral said it earlier, it's call the ball and they'll get you down. But one quick aside, you remember Jeff Strabel, right?
Sure.
His daughter is the E2 NFO in the last Top Gun.
Was the E2 NFO where?
In the last Top Gun movie, when Tom Cruise is talking to the E2, that's
wow.
Strabel's daughter.
Wow.
I know. I thought I'd share that with you.
Strabel's daughter.
So cool, huh?
That's amazing.
I know. It's awesome.
See the tail hook right there.
Yep. Whoa.
So, folks, if that tail hook doesn't get the arresting gear, that's the touch and go. You're at full throttle, so you just touch and go right back up. That's what they practice all the time before they teach them how to actually land it. Sonny, we've been three of those exercises off of San Diego where they're taking the pilots from Miramar, teach them how to land on carriers, right? A couple of three can do the touch and goes, but they can't do that.
The F-18.
They can't do that
Each
final
aircraft
one.
is equipped with the M61A1 Vulcan Gatling gun housed in the nose. The weapon fires 20mm rounds at a staggering of 6,000 rounds per minute to precisely destroy small targets while minimizing collateral damage. The 20mm cannon is equipped with a semi-armor-piercing, high-explosive incendiary rounds, which are fired at supersonic speeds to inflict heavy damage to their targets. Each aircraft will execute a well-honed strafe pattern, diving at nearly 30 degrees straight at the target and unleashing the Vulcan's firepower in a demonstration of the F-18's ability to prosecute targets even when all bombs are expended.
Sonny, where we had the close-in weapon system to put up that wall of steel to stop a missile from hitting a surface vessel at the last second, this is kind of what we have in the air in one of these fighter aircraft. This Vulcan gun is kind of similar. You're just putting down a wall of lead to rip apart, shatter anything in front of you, correct?
The targeter. We will see them dispensing flares and executing a guns jink in order to defend against enemy air defense artillery and surface-to-air missiles and look to return to base safely. Next up is the MH-60 Sierra. The Sierra is the Navy's multi-mission workhorse helicopter. It has 2 auxiliary fuel tanks and it can stay airborne for about 4.5 hours, about 2 hours without it. Its max speed is 180 knots. It can carry up to 23,000 pounds and 55 pounds of internal fuel. For special operations support, the MH-60 Sierra can insert and extract Navy Special Warfare personnel by fast roping or static line, as well as free fall parachute. It also provides ISR capabilities, sniper overwatch, JTAC support, and the helicopter visit, board, search, and seizure for maritime interdiction. The armament for the MH-60 Sierra includes the GAU-21 50 caliber gun with nearly 2 kilometer effective range of M24 7.62 millimeter guns with an effective range of 1,100 meters. When fully armed, the MH-60 Sierra can carry up to 8 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles with an 8-kilometer reach and 20 millimeter 3-barrel M197 Gatling gun with up to 38 rounds of unguided 2.75-inch rockets. Using the digital rocket launcher, this platform can fire precise rockets at about 5,000 meters. Here we will see the Sierra make 3 total approaches off a notional target off our port side, first employing their unguided rocket payload before circling around the ship at the end of the run. And now returning over the right shoulder, we'll see a combination of 20mm machine guns, unguided rockets, and lastly, they will depart to the north prior to returning to suppress the area with crew surveying weaponry with 50 caliber machine guns to ensure target destruction.
Paul, the utility of those helicopters is pretty extraordinary. You've got anti-submarine helicopters. You have a whole different. Walk us through quickly what the different types of helicopters are, and how they add both of the. You got the surface combatants out there and the carrier.
You know, it's interesting, Steve. I managed both of those programs, the Romeo and the Sierra, as the IPT lead. We have only 2 helicopters now with the 53s. We ran a program called the Common Cockpit. The cockpits are virtually the same. That's the key. So training and how we get people through the pipeline is completely different than what used to be, where we all had stovepipe helicopters and training. The Sierra is more of the tactical insertion extraction. The Romeo now is the ASW Bird, anti-submarine Bird, but they both have guns and missiles now, and they're also NVG compatible, which they weren't for decades, unfortunately. Magnificent airplanes, by the way.
Admiral Masso,
Please,
yeah.
Steve, go ahead.
Admiral Masso, the helicopters add a whole different dimension when they're put on surface combatants, do they not?
Absolutely, and in fact, if you think about different missions, specifically anti-submarine warfare, if we are in contact with a submarine, you really want to fight that submarine with a helicopter.
The F-18 demo flight. What you are about to witness highlights the mobility, versatility, and power of the most lethal carrier-based strike fighter aircraft in the world, the F-18 Super Hornet, nicknamed the Rhino. The F-18 pilots are now setting up for the minimum radius turn to the tail stand. With the max AB selected, the aircrew will select 90 degrees angle of bank and hold for 7.5 Gs for a 360 degrees of turn. At the end of the minimum radius turn, aircraft will max perform to the vertical, followed by a negative G pushover to return to level flights. pilots are now setting up for the square loop. As the Super Hornets approach through the show center at 350 miles an hour, the pilot will rapidly reposition the nose 4 times, flying a distinct square path through the sky. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, the square loop.
Admiral Massa, if you're on the deck of that carrier, or deck of that carrier like the president is right now, when it goes by in stripes, you can barely. It's pretty all-encompassing.
As the pilots push outbound, they are now setting up for the inverted whisper pass.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting a direct feed from the carrier. I don't think any of the networks getting this. So it's really, and the Navy's doing this switching of the cameras, so they're in control. Just some magnificent shots. If you had full volume of the sound, you would barely be able to hear yourself think. It's that loud, that all-encompassing. There's the carrier right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, get your cameras ready. The F-18 is now setting up for their final maneuver, their photo pass. The aircraft will pass show center at a 90-degree angle of bank and 200 feet and in maximum afterburner.
Paul Morgan, how many years of training does it take to be able to fly like this? These fighter pilots.
Well, flight school is about a year, and then depending on the aircraft, it's going to be at least another year, and then you go to your first squadron from what's called a replacement air group. It takes about 2.5, 3 years in the pipeline to go on your first cruise. It's kind of amazing.
Admiral Massa, we would be off in the San Diego op area many weekends, right? And when they were training those pilots to come out and do carrier landings.
Ladies and gentlemen, next up is the F-35C, the Navy's newest variant Joint Strike Fighter. It is the only 5th generation aircraft in the Navy's inventory and combines stealth with sensor fusion. The C model differs from other F-35 variants with its larger wings, increased fuel capacity, added ailerons, and enhanced landing gear, giving it the unique ability to launch and recover from the aircraft carrier at sea. Serving as the pilot today for the demo will be Lieutenant Underdown, call sign BAM, from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching now the F-35C repositioned for the minimum radius turn. As you're watching this, you will see that he was pressed in his seat at 7.5 times the force of gravity. To put that in perspective, during this maneuver, BAM's body weight will feel close to 1,500 pounds. During an aerial dogfight, the F-35C can execute extremely tight turns, giving the ability to rapidly reposition its nose and gain an advantage over the adversary. To now demonstrate the agility of the F-35C, Lieutenant Underdown will approach for the tactical pitch. From a speed of 300 miles per hour, BAM will select full AB, roll the aircraft 45 degrees, and show the F-35's ability to rapidly reposition its nose at high speeds and high angles of attack. He will then climb in the vertical, demonstrating the power of the Lightning II as he accelerates away from the ground. The F-35 will now set up for the high-speed pass. Pulling 6 Gs back toward show line, he will then approach show center at 300 feet and 0.95 Mach. You may notice the white vapor coming off the aircraft, indicating it is approaching the speed of sound at nearly 750 miles per hour. The ability to ingress at low altitudes and high speeds enables pilots to avoid detection and preserve the element of surprise.
Captain Morgan, what 7 Gs if you weigh 1,500 pounds? How do you even function in the cockpit?
Well, they have G suits on, and the design of the seats is actually really good. You're leaning back a lot more than you used to, so to pull 4 Gs in like a T-34 is hard, but it's to pull 7 leaning backwards with a G suit on. It's going to feel like you had no G suit sitting in a 34 at about 4 Gs. That's about the way it feels. But you'll black out.
Wow.
That's the way it goes. Oh, look at that.
That's magic. Admiral Massa, what do we have right there?
I can't tell. It looks like I can't tell. It looks like a cruiser.
Hopefully, maybe we get a helicopter demonstration off the fantail. I would tell you one thing, Captain Morgan, as dangerous as it is for those fighter aircraft coming in on, as you guys used to do, with no visibility, no horizon, in the dead of night, is pretty dangerous. When you got when the frigates and destroyers, those small landing decks, are bouncing around, correct?
It is, but your brother had a lot harder time than I did. Steve's brother was an H-2 pilot. I was an H-60 guy. 60s are so robust. They're just so much more stable than the old H-2. But it's challenging, but it's got its place in aviation. But the carrier stuff is really quite something.
For the culminating
Very
event of
quite
today's
something.
air power demonstration, all participating aircraft will return overhead the aircraft carrier for one final flyover. This formation represents the full complement of the carrier air wing, embodying the strength, precision, and professionalism of United States naval aviation. 14 war-ready aircraft will thunder across the sky in a disciplined wedge formation, while the MH-60 displays the colors of our nation, a solemn reminder of the freedoms we protect. Each aircraft is a vital instrument of our Navy's formidable warfighting capabilities, combining power, precision, and unwavering resolve. Together, they stand as a shield for America's interest, a testament to our credible deterrence, and if called upon, an overwhelming force.
Paul, is that where we're actually putting down a diver or putting down someone to actually rescue a pilot? Because Sonny had mentioned that or bringing up the real way when you have a man overboard during one of these exercises or in the fleet, and you get guys blown overboard all the time by the jets. The plane guard ship's right in back, but the best way actually to get them is by the helicopter. Can get them quicker because I can tell you, and Sonny I think will vouch for this. Very hard to see when you're blown overboard. That ocean is pretty vast. Even if you're on top of it, very hard to see. Still, the helicopter is the best way to rescue somebody. Correct?
It is, and the interesting part is they'll send an air crewman down on the hook to make sure if the who we're rescuing is hurt or disabled, that the air crewman will take care of the person and they'll both winch up together.
There's the commander-in-chief. Did that whole exercise from the actual flight deck itself. Wow. Talk about in harm's way. Admiral Masso talked about the lamps. They're come right there, the wedge. They're coming across now, the entire representative of the air wing itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for United States Naval Aviation.
Pretty impressive. Always.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude today's Sea Power demonstration, we stand united in awe and gratitude for United States Navy, a force forged in the crucible of history and the stalwart defender of American freedom for over 2 centuries. From the daring frigates of the Revolutionary War, which challenged the might of the British Empire, to the steel battleships that secured victory in 2 world wars, from the vigilant silent service of submarines during the Cold War to the swift carrier presence that projects power in today's global arena, the Navy has stood as the unwavering shield of our nation. These waters have been the proving grounds of heroes like John Paul Jones, whose legendary resolve declared, "I have not yet begun to fight." They echo with great valor of the Great White Fleet that carried America's message of strength and diplomacy throughout the globe. They remembered the sacrifice at Midway and Leyte Gulf, where fate and freedom was decided in the open seas and the skies above. Today, as we witness the might and precision of this modern fleet, we honor the generations of sailors who have answered the call to defend liberty and uphold justice. Their courage, skills, and dedication have preserved the peace and prosperity we cherish. To the men and women of the United States Navy, you are the inheritors of this proud legacy, the embodiment of America's promise to stand vigilant and strong against our nation's enemies. We salute your unwavering commitment, your honor, and your sacrifice. May your sails always catch the winds of victory. May your watch be ever steadfast. And may God bless the United States Navy and the United States of America.
Obviously very impressive. The commander-in-chief, I think, will spend a few minutes with the crew, and then maybe with the officers. He'll be heading back to Norfolk. We got Steve Gruber there. There's going to be an actual series of talks, and the president will address that vast crowd that's on the deck of the USS Truman. Admiral,
the official rotation color. The color guard is
okay. Maybe we go back, we get a shot of the Truman. I think it's going to shift there, and there are going to be some speakers prior to there's Titans of the Sea. Admiral Masso, the Lamps helicopters coming in on a small frigate or destroyer in the middle of the night with no horizon. Pretty dangerous operation for naval aviators and the personnel on the tiny little flight decks back there on the frigates and destroyers.
You know, I always found the level of professionalism of the air jets that we deployed with to be extraordinary. And we had what we called R2-D2, which was the computer and or robot in Star Wars, and that was our glide slope indicator. And as they would make their final approaches, we would turn on the flight deck lights and the SGLI, the glide slope indicator. And they just were so professional. And as you recall, we were able to land 46s. We landed H-3s and SH-2 Sea Sprite helicopters.
Yeah.
And the pilots were extraordinary. They just did an amazing job.
Incredible. I'm so proud. My kid brother's a LAMPS pilot. Right there, you see the color guard. Let's go and cut back to the. Let's cut back to the main deck. Don't need to see me. People are. Here we go right now.
250th birthday. As one force and of one voice, we remember and we celebrate both our storied past and our proud heritage. With the origins of the Navy predating our independence, our Continental Congress knew that a fleet of sufficient force was necessary for protection of our colonies and even for freedom itself. With your hands and through your vessels, our Navy was born as a force for good. Today, we celebrate one another, sailors and Marines who are the lifeblood of our force and the heart of our birthday celebration. And we are deeply grateful for all our shipmates, past and present, who have thrown themselves upon the sea again and again in the service of our great country and the finest, most powerful Navy and Marine Corps the world has ever seen. May you fill this space now with your divine presence and power as we commemorate this momentous occasion together. May you gird us with toughness and discipline as warfighters, even as we work diligently to deter and passionately to preserve peace through strength. May you make us ready and resilient when the call of duty comes as protectors of our nation and guarantors of freedom on the seas. And may you forevermore watch over and bless those who serve upon the sea, above the sea, and under the sea, as we sail towards a bold future together. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rabbi Yonatan Warren.
We come together now to acknowledge and memorialize those who came before us. Eternal God, for generations they came, young, hopeful, enthusiastic to serve, to answer a call from their nation, from their communities, from you. We pray for them, for those who answered the call to serve in the United States Navy and in the United States Marine Corps. For 250 years, they came in times of war and in times of peace. They came because freedom, democracy, union, revolution ask it, require it, demand it, and they answered that call. They gave of themselves, of their intellect, of their vigor, of their spirit, and because of that, today, we stand on their shoulders and we are eternally grateful for their service. God, Master of Healing, we ask you tend to the emotional and physical well-being of our nation's sea service veterans. May they never feel forgotten by those whose liberty they have so steadfastly defended. Lord, aid the caregivers who tend to their wounds. El Malei Rachamim, God full of compassion, hold close those who made the ultimate sacrifice, who died in the selfless devotion to the greater whole. May they be bound up in the bond of eternal life, and may they rest in peace. Lord, remember their parents, partners, children, and all the loved ones they left behind. Protect and comfort them, bring them peace, bring them grace. In this semi-quincentennial of our Navy and Marine Corps, may all assembled here, may all our fellow service members, and may our nation come to know and savor the blessings of true peace and security. May God bless us and our nation, and let us say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Father Daniel Swartz.
Eternal Father, strong to save, throughout sacred scripture, you have raised men and women and entire peoples to enact your will, never just for themselves, but also for those entrusted to their care. Behind and next to each sailor and Marine are fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters, families from whom we go out and to whom we return each time we take to the sea and set foot on foreign shores. The gift of life is a precious and sacred act, the holy bond of a family. We ask your blessing upon the families of America who have offered their sons and daughters in the noble service of persevering in the causes of truth, justice, and humanity. May they be protected in our absence and fortified in their waiting vigil. And while steel ships and ranks of proud uniforms capture the imagination, birthdays by their nature are family affairs. Today is no exception. In our celebration of 250 years of naval and marine service, may we persevere in our thankfulness for the families whose sacrifices run parallel to our own. Lord our God, we ask this final grace to remain steadfast in mission, resolute in our character, and devoted to the threefold legacy you have bestowed upon us, which we celebrate today: our families, our fleet, and our great nation. May the good work you have begun in us all be brought to fulfillment. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as musician second class Morgan Ramirez leads us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Chief of Protocol of the United States, Ambassador Monica Crowley.
And this is absolutely awesome. It's such a joy and an honor to be here at the world's largest naval base and home to the U.S. Navy's Fleet Forces Command. Especially today, when we all gather to salute the remarkable first 250 years of our incredible United States Navy. I am deeply honored to join President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Collins, Secretary Phelan, and of course, all of you, to celebrate 250 years of naval power and American might. The United States Navy has a glorious and storied past of historic victories at sea. From the small but determined Continental Navy sealing American independence in the Battle of the Chesapeake, to victory over the Barbary pirates in the Barbary Wars, to the first battle of ironclad warships at Hampton Roads, to the Battle of Manila Bay during the Spanish-American War, to the Battle of Midway, which turned the tide in the Pacific Theater in World War II, to the biggest naval battle in history, the Battle of Leyte Gulf, which shattered the enemy's naval capabilities for the rest of the Second World War. The United States Navy has always protected and defended American freedom and brought glory upon glory to our great nation. Today, history sets sail again, and we all have a front seat to freedom in motion as we honor America's awesome sea power. This big birthday party for the U.S. Navy is part of a year-long celebration of our exceptional history and the start of a new era of American greatness. Today, we launch the next 250 years of supreme U.S. naval power and of American liberty, dynamism, leadership, and pride. And what an absolute gift it is to have President Trump in the White House during this epic moment in our nation's history. Now, some of us may recall America's bicentennial in 1976, when we were all very, very, very young. One of my earliest memories as a little girl is gathering with my family at the Jersey Shore to celebrate that very special day. I'll never forget the indelible sense of American patriotism that took root in me that day. I can't remember the specifics of July 4th, 1976, but I do remember gazing in wonder at the fireworks, holding red, white, and blue sparklers, waving a small American flag, and singing the national anthem with hundreds of others. Whether or not you remember every detail of that day, you do remember how you felt. Proud to be an American. It is now our privilege to share this experience, this core memory, with the next generation of young Americans from sea to shining sea. On the eve of America's 250th birthday, the national mood is one of celebration. Americans are optimistic about the future. Thanks to President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, we are renewing our commitments to military might and peace through strength. We are working together to realign and reunite our great nation around our shared patriotic values and a renewed sense of civic pride as we sail toward July 4th, 2026. There is no greater champion for this new patriotism than President Donald J. Trump. I am so honored to be part of our national birthday party and to join with all of you in welcoming our exceptional Commander-in-Chief here today with the kind of tremendous reception he so greatly deserves. We are now in a moment in our history when, thanks to President Trump, we are turning the tide again, just as the revolutionary generation that founded our great Navy did. It is now our time to take big risks to save our country, and it is our duty to honor our past generations and their staggering sacrifices for which we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. We are the natural successors to the Revolutionary War generation, fiercely independent, ruggedly individualist, faithful to God and to country, with a white-hot love of liberty and the unique, enduring American spirit. It's been said that great civilizations tend to not last more than about 250 years. We've made it to 249 with our big 250 next year. But preparing for our next 250 years requires forever vigilance, something that the Navy has maintained with excellence, fortitude, and commitment to duty for 2.5 centuries. President Trump is reclaiming the American Republic for the American people. He is launching us into the next 250 years of American greatness, as he did in his first term, by delivering a strong economy, an enforced border and record low illegal immigration, a rebuilt, modernized military with record recruitment, a government that actually serves its people, and world peace. America first. Next year's momentous celebration will be thanks to his leadership in activating a national and worldwide celebration of America's 250th birthday. We are preparing to honor and celebrate our nation's history in unforgettable ways, from our military anniversaries, as we're doing here today, to a majestic flotilla of tall ships from around the world, to many other really big surprises. We know that this celebration will have a truly global impact, showcasing American power and leadership while promoting a future of peace and prosperity. America's 250th is so much more than just a date on the calendar. This moment will inspire a new era of American greatness. Not only will this be the most monumental and exciting celebration in American history, but it will spark a shared vision for America's future. And Lord knows we need that. Thanks to the Trump administration, next Independence Day will be a once or twice in a lifetime moment of sparkling American grandeur and patriotism. This is the new golden age. And with God's help, we will make America even greater over the next 250 years. And it's all made possible by the unmatched force of the United States Navy and the innumerable sacrifices of every man and woman who has put on the naval uniform. We owe so much of America's independence on July 4th, 1776, to the birth of the Navy on October 13th, 1775. Today, our hearts are filled with gratitude and pride for you, the men and women of the United States Navy, and your indispensable role in securing the first 250 and the next 250 years of American greatness. Happy birthday, U.S. Navy. Because of you, we continue to be the beacon of hope, a citadel of liberty, and a light in the darkness. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our Commander-in-Chief, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
Now, Ambassador Crowley is not only head of protocol for the president, the vice president, and the secretary of state, but also, as a side deal, is doing the is running America 250. Captain Fennell, give me your thoughts of what you've seen so far in the naval exercise. We're going to cut back to the stage as soon as we have some more speakers. Your thoughts so far, what you've seen, sir?
Well, the air power demonstration and the carrier strike group operations writ large reminded me of my time in the fleet, and I think one aspect that folks would be interested to know about is that the strike planning that goes on board the carrier, and that we do cyclical flight operations. So they'll start flying, say at noon, and they'll fly and launch 24 aircraft, and they'll recover them in an hour and a half or 2 hours later, and they'll do that cycle again. And they'll do up to 10 or 12 cycles a day, normally during a deployment on an average flight day. So that's, over 100 planes, more than 100 planes will be launched throughout the day, closer to 200. And that kind of sustained carrier operations is something that still no one can do like we can. And I think that's really the power of the Navy and our naval air wings and our carrier strike groups and the associated platforms, is that we can bring sustained operations over a long duration. In fact, we've tested it. You can go for about 4 days straight running 24/7 cyclical carrier flight operations. And then all of a sudden, the equipment doesn't break down, but the people do. They need a rest. And that's why when we have multiple carriers, one carrier will be up on the line and another carrier may be back resting for a day or two, and then they'll switch in and out. And that gives us really even a much more power. So that's the kind of power that we have in our Navy in those cyclical operations, where they're planning their flight operations, where they're going to fly, what targets are going to strike, and then they go out and they do it, and they come back and they report their results to the carrier intelligence team that collates all this data, does the battle damage, bomb damage assessment, and contributes to the warfight, whether it's over land or at sea. And so this is really something that's unique to any other nation in the history of mankind, our ability to do this with so many carriers over the course of the last 80 years. And that's the area where we want to stay ahead and make sure that we have the latest and greatest technology to keep us ahead of what the Chinese are building, because they're trying to replicate what we have built. They can't generate the kind of sorties today with the first two carriers that they have. They just can't do it. They're not big enough and don't have the capacity. Their follow-on carriers, they're going to try to do what we're doing. And so this is the real challenge.
We're standing by waiting for the Commander-in-Chief to return to Norfolk Naval Station and come aboard the Truman, where he would give remarks. Thousands of sailors and other family members there on the deck of the Truman and in the stands off to the side. Cleo Pascal, you have done a fantastic job of telling us about the importance of the Pacific, and that we're a Pacific power, and the United States Navy is needed for power projection everywhere, but particularly confronting the Chinese Communist Party in the Pacific, and particularly the Western Pacific. Give us your thoughts about today so far.
Oh, it's been great. And I think that the message that's being sent, not only to the American people, but to the Chinese planners, that this is an administration that is serious about the Navy. They're showing off the capabilities, but they're also just showing off the pride, which means that you may start to see some new investment, which would be sorely needed, is hopefully going to resonate. And as you see the resonance within the public across the United States, especially after the speech to the flag officers by the Secretary of War and the President, and the fact that recruitment numbers are up, you're dealing with a completely different military and a different political approach to the military than the U.S. has seen in a very long time. So this is on many levels, not just in terms of capabilities, but also in terms of what we've talked about before, political warfare, narrative warfare. This has been a very important day.
Admiral Masso, your thoughts. You're closer to this than many of us, given the Pete Hegseth's thought, the Secretary of War, the President's kind of telling the generals about where we're going to go in the future. Today, do you think not just Capitol Hill, but do you think our enemies in Beijing are taking notice of the pride of the American people in their fleet and the capabilities of this fleet?
I think without question they are. They are watching this, and an overused term, shock and awe. That's what we kind of saw today. We saw a vast capability of special and unique skill sets. We saw the diversity of tasks. A lot of these ships, these Aegis cruisers and guided missile destroyers, can perform 12 to 18 separate missions. Our helicopter is a long arm extension of all of those capabilities. And of course, who would we be without our fighter jets and in that? So I think what we saw today was so impressive, and especially from the undersea side. We can bring a lot of capability to a fight, and our sailors are so well trained. And one of the things we learned, from the end of the Cold War was that the Soviets didn't really employ their enlisted people like we employ our enlisted people. And the backbone of our fleet are those individuals. And I know you knew that. I see it every day. And I spoke at a ship reunion last night. And all those sailors there were so proud of what they accomplished in their careers. And it's the best part of our battle plans, our people.
Talked about that, Admiral Masser, the difference in the way that the United States Navy thinks of and utilizes the enlisted man, and the understanding the chiefs run the Navy, just like the sergeants run the Army, the non-commissioned officers. Talk about how integrated it is, different than some more hierarchical, even the Royal Navy, but particularly the Soviet Union's Navy.
Well, if you think about it, we have a structure on every Navy ship that if you're looking at it like a union, we have apprentice, we have journeyman, and we have masters. And the apprentice are the brand new sailor that comes aboard and may do damage control maintenance as a collateral aside, but it helps them learn the functions of the ship. The same is true even with food service that they have to participate in. But once they start, really learning their jobs and start making rank, third-class petty officer, second-class petty officer, they enter the world of the journeyman, and then we start teaching them leadership. And it's a algorithm that has been so successful for all these years, because we give these sailors every opportunity to crush any limitations that they have, and not every ship is like that. If you were to look at, say, the old Soviet system, they didn't really get into the journeyman and master. Officers did all of the tricky maintenance and that. And we value our people, and this is why a second-class petty officer can get down there and fix some gear that, a lot of other navies would have to call, technical experts to fly in and fix, but yet our people can do that. The greatest part of today's exhibition was demonstrating just how many and how wonderful our sailors are that can pull off all of those multitasks.
Okay, we're going to go to Steve Gruber now on the riser. Thank you, Admiral Masser. You guys are going to stick around. President's due back off of the carrier, the strike group, back to Norfolk Naval Station, back to the Truman, going to address the sailors and family members there. Steve Gruber, you're on the riser. What do you got for us, brother?
It's a packed house, and I can tell you about the enthusiasm here. I took the time to speak to some of these sailors, the men and women of the United States Navy today, 2025. I stood out there and mingled with them for a bit. What do you think about the United States right now? How's morale? Better than it has been, they said. And I think that's a big takeaway here, because this is a big pep rally for the United States Navy, as we've talked about, 250 years. And so it's encouraging because, Steve, if you listen to the left-wing media, you think that, the media or the military is not with Donald Trump. That's absolutely false. When I sit here and talk to these young men and women, some of them been in a couple of years, some of them in 15 or 20 years, They say morale is better today than it has been for a number of years, and you can figure out why. They have a commander-in-chief they believe in, a commander-in-chief who sits out there and watches all of their equipment get used. It's impressive. There's no question about it. And the applause that ripped through here every time. They really like the submarines, by the way. That's a big favorite for the crowd here. But all of the equipment they're showing off, it's electric. The weather it's hot. I'm not going to kid you. It's a perfect day. Donald Trump should be here, in the next 20, 30 minutes, we assume. And I'm looking forward to it, to what the president has to say here, because he has a very positive, receptive crowd. And look, like I said, it's packed. It's hard to get through the crowd here anymore. It's packed all the way back. Thousands of men and women from the United States Navy are here. It's a great scene, absolutely great scene.
Steve, hang on for a second. We're going to come back to you. We're going to come back to the deck of the Truman. I want to give a hat tip to the musical director. Finally, we're getting some great music up there. Not that the Navy band wasn't playing great music before, but I think it's a little more appropriate, a little more martial, as we say. We're going to take a short commercial break. We got Admiral Sonny Masso, Captain Paul Morgan, Captain Jim Finella, Cleo Pascal. Short commercial break. We'll return to Real America's Voice, Navy 250, in a moment.
We'll be right back with more Navy 250, Sea Power and Freedom. We want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile, for standing with RAV.